Hi, I'm back. You're back, and I'm glad to see you. This is the man with the horns, YouTube, Richard Carson Steuart, talking about different aspects of different instruments and ways to approach it. Many have heard about the cup mute, but maybe have never seen one made of metal. This is one made by a friend of mine, Tom Crown, in Chicago, who gave me some mutes, especially for the piccolo trumpet. He gave me a few mutes, and he heard me play in Banff in 2008 for the International Trumpet Guild conference there. And I wanted to play a little bit from the second movement of the Tomasi Concerto, so that we can talk a little bit about mutes and how to apply them. It says here, sordine de boule. It's a cup mute. And I like this cup mute. I have some stone lines and whatever, and you can see there's some other mutes there, and here this might be an alternative mute for this kind of a sound. So maybe just to demonstrate the difference between one and the other, a metal one but I think it's important to give the opportunity of hearing that, and maybe that, and maybe this, and perhaps that. Okay, these are different mutes that can be used. The second movement of the Tomasi Concerto, and the Tomasi Concerto was a required piece by the German competition for solo trumpet in 1980 when I played. So I was using different mutes. This is a cup mute out of metal, I said, by Tom Crown. This one is made by Stone Line. It's called the Stone Line Cup Mute, Humes and Berg Company in East Chicago. But without the mute, now without ado, the same thing. It says espressione e vibrato. Expression with a lot of expression and vibrato. So I'm going to use a little bit more vibrato this time. So I could play this with then instead this mute, at least part of it. I don't want to bore you with too much of this. So you hear there's a completely different color of sound there. I like very much this. This is called a cup wah-wah mute. Actually, there's a hole through here. nice character of sound. And this mute was given to me together with this cornet that I got in for free, a Boozy & Co. cornet. The man that gave it to me on Vancouver Island, I think I showed it in an earlier YouTube, he said, "Take care of this cornet, it got me out of jail one time." That was his, and this was in the same case with this cornet, a Boozy & Co. cornet from 1920. And you can hear that this is a very special sound. It's called a solo tone. Now, I think if you've listened to enough of these YouTubes of mine, and I hope you have and enjoyed them, you notice that the more I'm inspired by the sound and the perfection of the instrument itself, the better I play, because I lose myself in the music, because then I'm not concerned about anything other than just serving the music. I'm not worried about whether or not I miss a note, even though the camera's running here and it's difficult. But I wanted to show you even a softer mute than that. Something that I actually put together when I was touring with the Bamberg Symphony Orchestra, because the colleagues were such misers, they didn't want you to practice in the afternoon. You play a concert in the evening, drive in the morning to the next place, and they want to all sleep in the afternoon. Well, I wanted to practice. I mean, I was only like 25 years old. So, but this mute is really soft. You can't hear it in the next room in a hotel. Now, I've seen lots of mutes and electronic mutes and mutes from whatever, they'll cost you an arm and a leg. This is just a Alessi Vacchiano, an old one, and I've just taken necessity is the mother of invention. I've just taken a concert sock and shoved it in, and without the sock, the mute doesn't work at all. I mean, it's really bad. The mute is bad. But with the sock, it's something really special. And sometimes when I'm bored in my studio and just go down to the Main River and sit there and play for the fish that are going by, I'm not bothering a person that's walking by. Even sometimes people come and sit beside me because they can hardly hear me playing. They want to hear me playing. And so, but it's usually... it's usually just trying to do something in private. Once again, just pulling that sock through. It's a sock. I mean, this is the cheapest practice mute that you can possibly imagine. But don't forget that the mute itself has to have a big enough hole. That's why I use this old Alessi Vacchiano wah-wah or Harman mute that was made in, I don't think you can buy them anymore. Made in the 70s. And the ending of the piece is really excellent. But with that This is something very special. Of course, you can just take a standard Harman mute. This is a very special one that I bought. Very heavy. And if you pull out the stem of it, it gets softer even. So it's an option of different things. You have to be careful that the stem doesn't fall out as you're playing, or because of the flow of the air that you don't push it out. But then in the second part, after, if you can take a look here, Mike, after letter 7, it says here, it says here, as if an improvisation. It should sound like an improvisation, and it's without mute. Well, I can remember hearing a recording a long time ago of a very good classical and jazz trumpet player. He doesn't play any classical anymore. He plays mostly jazz now. He's the leader in New York of the Jazz Initiative at Lincoln Center. But I was very disappointed that when he played this part here, it says that it should sound like jazz as far as I'm concerned. And the French love jazz, by the way. They love jazz. They love Miles Davis, especially his Chafford, music to the elevator to Chafford, where he did improvised music to a film, famous film music from Miles Davis. It should sound like an improvisation, and I think what the man here means is not an improvisation, but a jazz improvisation. So it should be very free. Now, and written out improvisation is not an improvisation. Simple as that. Written out cadenza is not really a cadenza, because I think cadenza should be improvised. But the day and age that we live, you're under a lot of pressure. If you're playing a classical concerto and suddenly have to play a cadenza, like in the Haydn concerto, and you haven't prepared something, you're really under the gun to suddenly improvise something in the classical style at the drop of a hat or in that moment, because there's all kinds of other things that could be happening in your life. So sometimes it's necessary to really write out a cadenza or to prepare an improvisation. A lot of jazz musicians actually don't improvise. They play practice licks that they put together in the spontaneous moment. It's all practice licks. I like to improvise free, and I'm going to do that in one of the next YouTubes. Maybe not the next one coming up, but because I'm focusing more on C trumpet and this kind of thing right now. But I hope that you tune in again when we talk and when I demonstrate something, maybe from Tomasi or from Chalier or on the C trumpet or whatever. In The Man with the Horns, Richard Carson Steuart. I hope that you get in touch with me and give me your comments and criticisms and suggestions of how I can make these YouTubes better. Hope to hear from you, and bye for now.